All right, today we are diving into something really fascinating, a dense philosophical parable. It's a story about a powerful sorceress, a secret word, and this wild, mind bending idea that you can actually change your own past. So, yeah, let's get right into it. So, our story kicks off with this really cryptic, dramatic scene. You've got Gilistane, who's clearly leaving, and then there's Ghanem, who is desperately pleading with her to stay. But the real puzzle piece, the thing that unlocks everything, is that super strange stage direction, speaking backward over her shoulder. What could that possibly mean? And that's it. That's the central mystery we need to solve. How can a single word, what our source material calls a mirror word, let a person literally speak backward and redeem their past? Well, to untangle this, we've got to start with the incredible woman at the very center of this parable. Okay, let's start our philosophical detective work. The first major clue in this whole puzzle is figuring out who, or maybe what, the Magissa really is. You know, the name itself tells us so much. Magissa is the Greek word for sorceress. But we're not talking about some fairy tale witch with a pointy hat. No, the source material is really clear that this is an archetype of primal, dangerous wisdom, a kind of power that just doesn't fit into society's neat, rational boxes. She represents life itself, chaotic, powerful, and totally indifferent to our simple ideas of good and evil. And what's really interesting here is the contrast they set up. In ancient Greek thought, you have the magos, the male wise man. He represents order, logic, and knowledge that's been approved by the system. But the Magessa, she is his polar opposite. She embodies the chaos, the raw, intuitive, generative force of life. It's basically order versus chaos, logic versus pure instinct. And this, of course, brings us to the philosopher whose ideas are all over this parable, Friedrich Nietzsche. He had this incredible idea that maybe truth is like a woman who refuses to be won over by clumsy, forceful arguments. You can't just conquer her with logic. The Magissa is the perfect symbol of this, a kind of truth you have to experience and wrestle with, not one you can just read about in a textbook. The source also makes this brilliant distinction. On one hand, you could have a maleficracy. Just think of it as organized magic, a rigid system, a bureaucracy of witches, all designed for control, for power over other people. But our Magissa, she's a rogue agent. Her power is fluid, it's individual, and it's all aimed at self-transformation. It's power over herself. And that distinction is absolutely crucial for understanding what she does next. Okay, so we've got our agent, the Magissa. We know what she's about. Now let's look at the problem she's up against. And it's a fundamental human prison that honestly traps every single one of us. And here it is. This is the burden. According to Nietzsche, one of the biggest sources of human suffering is the simple, crushing fact that we cannot change what has already happened. The past is fixed. The stone's been thrown. It's done. It was. Nietzsche's description of this feeling is just so vivid, the will's teeth gnashing against the forward march of time. That rage, that frustration at being powerless against what's already been done, he gave it a name, the spirit of revenge. It's that awful feeling of being stuck, just replaying events in your head, wishing you could change them. And you can see how this becomes a vicious downward spiral. First, your will slams into this brick wall of the past. It was. Then you realize you're completely powerless to do anything about it. And that feeling of powerlessness just festers, turning into resentment and bitterness, a kind of poison that doesn't just taint the past, it ruins your present too. So let's bring this right back to that opening scene. The character Ganem, the one begging her not to go, he is this prison. He is the living embodiment of that spirit of revenge, desperately trying to chain the Magessa and the present moment to something that has already happened. So, the huge question is, how does the Magissa break free from this prison? And this is where we get to the absolute heart of the parable, the mysterious mirror word. So, what is a mirror word? Well, the source material points us to a simple grammatical trick we all learned as kids, the palindrome. You know, a word like madam or race car that reads the same forwards and backwards. But in this parable, this simple little concept carries an enormous philosophical weight. I mean, just think about what a palindrome implies, philosophically. It's not a straight line from a beginning to an end. It's a perfect circle where the end loops right back to the start. It's completely self-contained. It hints that every value contains its own opposite within it. In this way of thinking, time isn't a weapon used against you. It's a perfect, closed loop. And this isn't just some random niche idea. You can see how this concept of mirroring and reversal pops up in major modern works. Margaret Atwood uses the palindrome, Mad Adam, to show how an artificial future mirrors a primal past. But Nietzsche's take is completely unique. He uses this idea of reversal to transform regret into a powerful act of affirmation. All right, we have all the pieces on the board now. We've got the sorceress, we've got the prison of the past, and we have the key, the palindrome. Let's put it all together and finally solve the riddle of the mirror word. So here's the crucial point. The mirror word isn't a magic spell. It's not about literally traveling back in time. It's a philosophical tool. It's the mental trick for what Nietzsche called willing backwards. It's about changing your entire relationship to your past. It's like you can't remove a scar, but you can choose to see it not as a mark of weakness, but as a symbol of your survival and strength. And this right here shows the transformation perfectly. You move from the prison of it was, that heavy, unchangeable fact that causes so much suffering, to the incredible freedom of thus I willed it. It's a radical act of reframing your own story. You look back at everything that's happened, the good and the bad, and instead of saying that happened to me, you find the strength to say, I willed that to happen because it was necessary to forge me into the person I am today. This profound psychological move actually has a name in Nietzsche's philosophy, amor fati. It literally translates to the love of one's fate. And that's the ultimate goal here, not just to put up with your life, but to be able to look at all of it, the triumphs, the tragedies, the whole messy thing, and to affirm all of it, to say a powerful, active yes to every single moment. So let's bring it all home and solve our puzzle from the beginning. The Magissa isn't running away from Ganem and weakness. Her act of speaking backward is an act of ultimate power. She is taking the it was of her past with him and transforming it into a thus I willed it. She's not being chased. She is actively choosing her own path forward by affirming everything that led her to this exact moment. And so, this ancient, deep parable leaves us with a very modern and very personal question. It's a challenge, really. Take a look at your own story. What it was in your life, what past burden are you still carrying that you could maybe transform into a thus I willed it?